That's actually a really important point that you highlighted, and I think perhaps you've taken it a bit for granted. You've seen these subtle things of, even though on a macro level you're happy to let things come and go, but on a micro level you've also noticed these little bits of desire, as you said. Now, those bits of desire, and of course, you being like most people, you notice something that you know is not quite right. There's some sort of dissatisfaction. But I'd like you to take a step back from that and think about it in terms of, you've noticed something incredibly subtle here. You've noticed something that you may not have noticed before. As you say, on a macro level, you actually are quite good at letting things come, letting things be, and letting things go. But now, through your meditation, you've noticed this other thing at play. And that other thing is, sure, it's important that we can tend to later on, but I think you're too quick to jump to tend to it rather than appreciating that awareness is seriously doing its job. And so what's happened to the congratulating of the awareness? Right? And in fact, so the important thing is, what's happened to that thank you awareness? You've actually done what you need to be doing. I think spending more time on that. You see, you want to congratulate the system when it's doing the right job, as you know. You don't want to be getting the whip out the moment the system does the right job. And I think you're a little bit quick to do that at the moment. And that little movement of mind is what's causing dissatisfaction. Movement of mind, rather than noticing that awareness has picked this up and actually being happy about it, that movement of mind away from that happiness towards this, oh, I've got to fix this somehow, this is not good, that very movement is what's causing the dissatisfaction. It is not the fact that there's push and pull and there's a little bit of greed happening there and a little bit of wanting happening. That's just a fact. But your reaction to it is that, oh no, that's not good, and you're very quick to latch onto that, and that very action of latching onto things is what we call craving. And that is that in that very moment, that is what the suffering is. It's not the actual wanting that's already occurred. That's just something that has occurred as a result of your past conditioning. Yeah. So your reactions of wanting, that's normal because that's a result of what's already happened. But what we want to do now is to catch those moments of our minds grabbing onto it in terms of craving, in terms of wanting it to be different, or in terms of wanting whatever to be different. And in this case, the whatever is that noticing of the wanting mind, and then immediately you want that to be different, as opposed to noticing of the wanting mind and go, oh, I've learned something new about myself now. I thought I was actually pretty good at sort of letting things be. But the reality is, oh, there are these little moments of, lots of little moments of wanting. How interesting. So again, coming from that space of being interested in this process, rather than, oh, what that's terrible. What can I do to fix it? This is terrible. I don't like this. Exactly. So instead of thinking, this is not correct, even just that statement without the I need to improve, this is not correct. Actually, you're supposed to be mindful. You're supposed to be aware of what's happening. So this is what's happening. Of course it's correct because it's what's happening. Of course it can be improved on in future, but this is the way it is. Nothing needs to be changing about this situation. The only way to change future situations is if you actually see it from the space of openness, allowing, interest and acceptance. And so rather than latch onto it, see it from the space of openness and interest. Ah, that's what's happening. It's not that it shouldn't be happening. It should be happening because it has happened. That's what's happening. Ah, interesting. I'm seeing subtler things about the mind. Isn't that wonderful? And so you encourage the system to move around whatever is. Now we're talking about something a lot more subtle than, when you were early in the meditations. But it's more of the same thing. Can it be okay? Whatever you're noticing, even if it's, and can you drop notions of this is not okay, this shouldn't be happening? Can you drop any notions of that? Of course it should be happening. It is happening. And even if the notion of this shouldn't be happening arises, can it be okay that that's arisen? So you're coming always, as much as you can, from the space of noticing what's happening and being okay with it. And even if there's a reaction to it, notice the reaction. What you don't want to be doing is noticing the reaction and then reacting to the reaction and then perpetuating another reaction to the reaction, and then we're adding layers to it. So what we're doing is we're trying to stop it sooner in its tracks. Whatever's arisen, that's fine. But can it actually be fine for you? Or do you need to be grasping onto feeling like you need to be changing things? Because at that moment, when you feel like you need to be changing things, you are no longer being mindful, really. You are simply doing what we always do, reacting to a situation that we've noticed.